All right, guys, here goes nothing. So, as you've heard me talk about time and time again until you get sick of it, I think it's time to change the tactic once again for our site here in Taiwan. For some reason, we haven't been able to come up with any sort of striker who's worth anything, but we do seem to have some good success with attacking central midfielders. And so we're going to go and take a look and see what we need to do to come up with a new tactic, or at least modify the tactic that we have now. And so I'll show you what I do here to go through the process. We'll just jump right on into this. So we go over here to our screen view. The place that I'm at right now is I'm actually looking at, well, let's see if we have this here. I'll go over here to the Sports Interactive. There we go, Sports Interactive Community Forums. We go down here to Tactics and Training and Strategies Discussion, and then we'll just go here straight to the Download Center. The reason why we're going to look at this particular page, then go to the KNAP thread, which is huge, with 6 million plus views, and then click on this Google document. That'll bring you to this. The reason why we're looking at this is because we don't want to necessarily reinvent the wheel. We want to have a general idea of what works and what doesn't work, and something that we can sort of build off of. That's the whole idea here. And so the first thing I did is I arranged everything according to formation. Not that hard to do, right? You go over here to data and then sort sheet, and then you sort sheet after you select column D by column D. And then in formation, once you have that set up, you can look and see what your different options are in each formation. We're looking at anything with a 0 at the end, because that means that there's 0 strikers. There's another one here. I'm not quite sure if we actually got one of these to Mad as a Hatter. Great. So we will take a look at that one as well. As you can see here from the tabs on the top, I have opened up some of these. I may have opened that up already, so we'll see it again. And here's a couple more with the 0s at the end. Then in addition to that, I went over to FM Scout and looked for any formations that were also strikerless to see if we can do a little bit of comparison. Now, the purpose of this is not necessarily to go through and like steal something from somebody. What we want to do is we want to take a look at it and get just a general idea of how this will work. So when we put our own tactic together, we'll know. We're not going to do it quite yet. We're waiting until the transfer window opens up, which will not be tomorrow. It will be the day after. So we'll see what happens there. Here's your Mad as a Hatter. No, I looked at this already, actually. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up top, a single person playing defensive midfield, and then 4 at the bottom. We're not even going to mess with this, so we can actually just totally forget about this. I'm not even going to look closer at it. I don't really care for that. You'll see it come up here again in a second. So we'll go ahead and close those 2 pages right now. Here's one. This is a little bit more of sort of like the shape that we're looking for. I don't want to make too many changes back here. I like keeping guys playing wing back here if possible. I worry about this because you have so many players in attacking instruction. There's 2 segundo volantes, which is something that I've seen before. You'll notice as well that you have shadow striker and then 2 advanced midfielders instead of 3 shadow strikers. There was a tactic that I downloaded that was a KNAP tactic, and I think it was FM23 that had 3 shadow strikers up front that did work. But it's something to keep in mind. We'll keep that one open and take a look at it. This is the same one we just saw, the Mad as a Hatter. We're not going to go for that. That looks like a meme. Here's another one that's sort of along the same lines of what we saw before. Shadow Striker 2 advanced or attacking midfielders, whichever one it is. You have wingers on both sides instead of wing backs, and that's because you actually have full backs. We're not going to go with this. I would prefer to play 3 at the back instead of 4 at the back, so we're just going to close that. And here's another idea. This is, again, Shadow Striker and 2 attacking midfielders, 2 segundo volantes, so you can see what they have in common. You look at both of these, and you can see at the bottom are also the ball-playing defenders and the sweeper-keeper. In both cases, sweeper-keeper support ball-playing defenders and defend, which is something that we're used to now. Notice, by the way, that these both these tactics have balanced mentalities, which is interesting, and yet you have so many attacking players, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in this one, and 4 actually in this one. So this one has defensive wingers playing a little bit further forward, but who are probably going to spend a lot more of their time going back down. And that's kind of the reason why you're playing this. Again, as I've said before, as I understand it, the whole concept behind this tactic is that you're trying to make it so that you are getting away with having 3 at the back by having wingers on both sides, basically wingers who will go back and play further deep down and will stop attacks from coming. That works if you have somebody who actually can play the position. As we saw in that match against Hongyuan, when Menegong wasn't starting, we couldn't go back and fill in the gap because we didn't have anyone who could play the position. So, there's positive and negative sides of trying to do this. I told you I would look at some formations that are not Knap tactics. I haven't done like a search all over the internet. I haven't even touched Steam, so there's probably a whole bunch of stuff I'm missing. Here are two that I found on FM Scout. This is an Arsenal tactic 4132 that, again, has 4 at the back, so we're not really going to consider too much of what's happening here. This is a much different shape, but you can see, again, the attacking midfielder and the shadow striker together. This one has a little bit more of this sort of like wing-type play up here. And there's this kind of weird box-to-box midfielder and defensive midfielder combination. I'm really not that interested in trying to go for this. I'm not going to touch that very much. And then this one. So this one, again, here's your wing backs, and then instead of having 3 at the top, they have 2 wingers here on the side playing as inside forwards, which, if I understand it right, and I might not understand it fully, means that they're basically doing something very similar to what happens if we have 3 attacking midfielders at the top. So this is another one to sort of keep in mind. We'll use this as we look into it. Unfortunately, these photos are so small that I'm not sure that you can actually see exactly what's going on. I'm going to have to do some reading. Do a little bit of a look here. So first of all, you'll see that the mentality in all 3 of these is balanced. This one is much harder to see. But yeah, you have a balanced mentality, definitely. And here we're looking at a lot of stuff that we have already, shorter passing, low crosses. I think that Knap likes low crosses. This one also has low crosses. I don't really mind if the crosses are high or low, whatever. Run out the defense. I think that run out defense is in all 3 of these. Yeah. Pass into space is also in all 3 of these. You know that already. And see, Knap likes to focus play down the left and down the right and have overlaps. Now, that's kind of weird because you don't have anybody to overlap, right? I think the purpose of that is to try to get these wingbacks up forward. And so that's something that we might want to experiment with. And you see that here in all 3 of these, except that this one is underlap, not overlap. This is, again, too small, too hard to see. So that's the other thing that we might want to keep in mind, which is that even though there's not a whole lot going on the wings, we're trying to play down the wings instead. I've mentioned before that other teams, at least against us, have a lot of success if they just play the ball down the middle. We might have success if we try to focus play down the wings and keep it that way. What I'm thinking about doing is having 3 guys up here. Maybe we start off, instead of with these 2 advanced midfielders, maybe we do start off with 3 shadow strikers on attacking roles, and then we have 2 guys on supporting roles over here, and then we do try the 2 segundo volante setup here. That's just an idea. We'll sort of see what happens. We can't experiment necessarily too much because we actually do want to win some matches, right? We're going to have, so that nice month of September where we didn't have matches before, we actually will have to play some matches and figure something out. But this is sort of the idea that we have. I do think that we're going to have enough players up front to make one of these 2 actually work and become reality. As far as transition is concerned, counter press, distribute quickly, distribute to center backs. This is all stuff that we have right now. Knap likes to roll it out, of course. This one, again, roll it out, distribute quickly, counter and counter press. There's not a whole bunch of differences there. Not too much to look into. It's the same as how we play now. Now, out of possession, this has a high press. I think that all 3 of these, yes, do have a high press. I'm pretty sure that we have a high press as well. That's what you need with the sweeper keeper. Much more often, I forget what I think much more often is referring to pressuring the opposing keeper. Prevent short goal kick is what that is. Much more often is something somewhat similar, can't remember. And then get stuck in, of course, is what you choose if you want a lot of fouls. And yeah, they do get stuck in, and whatever distribution means. So we, in general, because of that, have kind of a general idea of what it is that we're going to do. We'll probably make something that's based upon sort of like these 3 different setups. There's not a whole lot of reason for us to go through and reinvent the wheel completely. But that's kind of the plan that we have, and we'll see if we can then get the players in who can fit into this tactic. Like I said, it'll probably be probably not the next match, but maybe the match afterwards that we start to really experiment with this. Take the strikers out, try to sell off the guys who are worth money. We might also replace Lichaba in the back after he gave up those 4 goals in a really poor performance. I'm growing very impatient with this guy who's using up a foreigner slot and thinking, man, there's a lot of better players we could probably get than him. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I do think that that might be a wise course of action, and then try to get some playing time to some of our younger players who haven't had it yet. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see which players fit into which roles, but it should be interesting moving forward. And there you have it. So that, in a nutshell, is the way that I tend to look at setting up different tactics. And, if you have any sort of comments, any sort of advice or anything like that, I would love it if you would let me know down below. we'll see what happens. I mean, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, we don't really lose out on that much. I do think that we probably will be able to win the league this year. I think that we're still in good shape despite our most recent loss, because I don't think the Athletic Club Taipei is going to win every match. But it might come down to the wire in the end. So we'll see what happens in the end. It's always going to be fun, and whatever happens, I will have it covered here for you. We'll talk with you later then. Bye.